First of all, one, we may be faking a UFO situation for reasons that I don't understand.
Project Bluebeam, well, that's what it's about.
In 1974, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, Carol, there is a lie being told to everyone, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. And they're all lies.
If we are faking a UFO situation, do you think that there's technology that's available to people in the United States that is beyond our current understanding of what's possible?
The technology necessary to project three-dimensional images to a point in space requires no new breakthroughs in science. We have the technology now.
And those are directed energy weapons of where we do intersecting beams or focus beams into the atmosphere. And notice they're always in the atmosphere to excite the electron orbitals of the oxygen and nitrogen in our atmosphere. And it causes a glow and it causes ionization. That ionization shows up on radar and it's like a cat laser pointer.
Holograms on a battlefield would be to divert the attention of the enemy, to deliver propaganda.
People have forgotten how terrifying, important, wonderful, jaw-dropping, and awesome physics is because it hasn't done anything that completely screws your mind.
We can make it look like an entire fleet is about to drop bombs on, let's say, Europe, and then just have them disappear. And they get all their planes up in the air, and we attack them from the other direction, assuming we're attacking Europe.
Who is doing this?
Somebody. Let's just say a group, you know.
And you know this for a fact.
I know for a fact.
In Arizona are electrical optical test beds, and part of what they're testing are the effects of these electro-optical devices on a target population.
And the target population may be us.
So that's blue beam type technology already being rolled out and shown to the public. They had different operations that we don't even know the names of, but are admitted to have high-powered satellites and or ground-based systems that can project of, say, a 5,000-foot tall Jesus or a 5,000-foot tall Buddha. Now, here's the Space Needle last year, and there they are putting on an artificial display, everything, and that's being done with holograms. So that's the projects that I read about in the 80s and 90s that they never show anybody, and now they can do it. So if that's what they're letting the public know they have, imagine what else they really have, and imagine the mind control.
And is this something that could be seen with the naked eye, or
yes,
is this something
because
that would
it glows? It glows, so it would be seeable. You can see it by the naked eye, and it would leave a radar trace. So it's perfect as a deception. There's a Japanese company, so I can talk about the use femto pulsed lasers to create touchable holograms. Tiny little laser beams that excite the air and their midpoints, and then create different colors. Even with
now, is this something that they would be able to do
on a massive scale?
100 miles offshore?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think so. But I'm saying they can just create, little orbs and split them up and make them do cool things. And, the razzle-dazzle, shock and awe effect of war.
So the technology is real. It's been kept secret, and it's been used to promote this concept that there's an alien threat to this Earth.
But for those that don't know what Project Bluebeam is, they've had leaked documents come out. This has been reported on since the 80s. William Cooper reported on it and did a good job in the 90s.
What I've discovered is there's no proof existing anywhere that extraterrestrials are real or that have ever visited this planet or that they exist anywhere in the universe. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere. There is lots of evidence, tons of it in fact, that there are a group of people collectively known as the Illuminati who want us to believe in some extraterrestrial threat from space so that they can cause a world government, bringing together of all the people to resist that external threat.
What better way to implement a plan to bring about a one-world government than to create the possibility in the minds of the people of the world that we are being threatened from some other species, from some other planet. It has all the earmarks of the most successful, most sophisticated mind control operation in the history of the world.
And notice how they, all of a sudden, all the governments release all their information on UFOs, and there's a whole division dedicated, and that's just deception.
During the Reagan administration, he made 6 speeches, specifically talked about a threat from outer space by some other species from some other planet. 6, ladies and gentlemen. Why would the president repeat the same thing 6 times, tagged on to the ends of speeches by him?
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings.
The speechwriters did not put that in the speech. Ronald Reagan added it himself.
But if you wanted to bring the world together, as President Reagan said in several UN speeches, you would have a common enemy like evil aliens attacking. We forget our differences and we fight against it.
So we wouldn't look at each other as Chinese or Russian or American. We look at each other as Earthlings.
It's humans. Yeah, as Earthlings. And so that was Project Bluebeam, was to trick the human race into believing either God is coming down, everybody hears the voice of God, the microwave hearing effect, get along, give, whatever the new message is, or it was going to be the evil aliens attacking.
You're being lied to. This is a psyop.
Think of how all the differences among people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader.
And here is Henry Kissinger. This is been confirmed out of Bilderberg. Henry Kissinger on the establishment of a new world order. Today, Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. Henry Kissinger in the address Bilderberg meeting, Evian, France, May 21st, 1992.
I wanted to know just how true all of this was. The first thing I did was collect every bit of documentation that I could find, both from the Freedom of Information Act, from the research of others, from books that had been printed on the subject of UFOs, and of course through my network of friends in the intelligence community. What I discovered was amazing. What I discovered, ladies and gentlemen, is that there has been a plan in existence since about 1917, and probably before that, to create an artificial extraterrestrial threat to this Earth in order to create a one-world totalitarian socialist government. One of the first documents that I found in my search was this one. The Imperial Japanese Mission 1917, a record of the reception throughout the United States of the special mission headed by Viscount Ishii. And when the Imperial Japanese Mission was in New York City, they had a dinner and some pretty famous people spoke at this dinner. One of them was John Dewey.
And John Dewey was one of the speakers. And the first sentence out of his mouth as I was reading this, almost fell out of my chair, because this was in 1917, and he said the best way to cause all the people of the world to come together in one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it.
Now, bear in mind, folks, that's 1917. Are you beginning to get the message, folks? It is more probable, in our judgment, that such a threat will have to be invented rather than developed from unknown conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, they have created so many alternate enemies in order to bring about their one-world totalitarian socialist state that we don't know which enemy to believe is real or is false, or whether to just toss them all out on their ears. And I think that that is probably going to be the best solution. Disarmament is no accident. All of these bills in Congress to take away our weapons is no accident. The intentional environmental pollution of our lakes, rivers, streams, oceans, forests, everything is no accident, as you just heard. These things were planned many, many years ago. All the bombardment of the public with movies about flying saucers in the 50s, right after the United Nations Treaty was signed and the UN Participation Act was pushed through Congress, and all of the incidents since that have convinced the majority of the American people that flying saucers are real and extraterrestrials exist, and that flying saucers are from an extraterrestrial origin. This is being promulgated in many ways, by television commercials, in the movies, in the newspapers, by creating incidents either real or imagined. I believe, because of my research, and because of the extensive documentation that I've found and that is in my book, that this whole scenario has been created to give us an artificial alien threat from outer space.
But definitely when you have the head of NORAD and a bunch of other Pentagon officials saying these could be aliens, when they know good and damn well the skies are full of research balloons, private corporate balloons, university balloons, government blimps, balloons, it's ridiculous. The Pentagon decided to hype up the balloon 2+ weeks ago. They decided to make it a big issue, to introduce all this fear.
They call UFOs, these craft that fly around the sky, are real. But they're not piloted by some little green guy from some other planet. They're owned and operated by the United States of America for one, the Soviet Union for another, probably Great Britain, Canada.
When you look at that and you pull back from it, there's been a long-term project to cover up advanced aircraft and technologies. When you see a B-2 bomber or the B-3 bomber, all that stuff's 30, 40, 50 years old. They still say that SR-71 Blackbird's the fastest plane the U.S. has. It was developed in the early 50s in service in the late 1950s. They need this outside threat to, A, cover up what they're doing, B, be able to use super weapons on enemies, and then have plausible deniability. But why are they now, through Hollywood and the whole culture, and now the Pentagon, that we predicted for so long, now exacerbating the idea that indeed aliens are here and doing this? And it's because, again, it's that backdrop of fear and control that they want. I know it's an old project. We're talking about the fact that it has come out in Congress, and they have admitted that there are projects to do this. Most of what you see in the media and the culture is hidden government projects and advanced technologies that they have been developing. The CERN superconducting supercolliders about that. The nuclear fission reactors are about that. Nuclear fusion. The animal, human, and plant animal and animal insect chimeras are alien. They're inventing aliens.
The cattle mutilations I've discovered in my research are nothing more than what's left after the government does its secret tests on the low-level radiation leakage from its atomic weapons assembly plants and atomic power plants. It's a low-level radiation monitoring project. And if you look at what's missing in the cattle, you'll see that it's just as clear as day. They take the lips, they take the tongue, they take a 6-inch patch of skin, they core out the rectum, the colon area, where those kinds of things would collect. They pass through the through the digestive system. On female cows, they take the udder to check for low-level radiation in the milk. Is it being passed to the calves? And these are all grazing animals that graze on the grass where the radiation falls when it falls from the air. And it's just an incredible deception. And I'm just amazed that people have fallen for it in the manner that they have in the absence of any proof whatsoever.
So the aliens are here, ladies and gentlemen, and we're building them. We're making them.
But that's what it is. It's not extraterrestrials coming down. The human body cannot pass through walls or roofs or through windows that are closed. You know, this is all the product of the imagination.
I wish I was wrong. We're not. And all the big planning and setups that have been predicted, we've been saying is imminent, looks like they're doing it now, right on the verge of a massively expanded war with Russia and a war with China.